The first game was, of course, on Thursday night, and that was rematch of the last year's AFC divisional round, the Texans and the Chiefs. And this, you had the Texans get out to an early 7-0 lead, and then you had the Chiefs go out and put 31 unanswered points on them after starting down 7-0, and it wasn't close after a bit. Like, I guess the first quarter was something, but after that, it wasn't close.
I mean, it was almost a repeat of the playoff game from last
Yeah.
year. Besides, instead of a 24-point lead, it was a 7-point lead. But the Chiefs decided, oh, we're just going to be in by 14 anyways. But I mean, the one big thing that I had a takeaway from this game is Clyde Edwards-Helaire was one of the most talented pass catchers out of the backfield in college. And he wasn't targeted very much in this game. He was a factor in the run game, was not a factor in the pass game. If he gets unleashed in the pass game, this offense just adds another dimension, another weapon that I don't know what defenses are going to be able to do. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had one downfield throw the whole game, and they have three guys that can take the top off the defense, and they still won by 14.2 touchdowns.
That's so stupid.
I mean,
That's so
what's
stupid.
going to happen when this Chiefs offense is actually unlocked?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire really did impress too, because he led the league in rushing yards in his first game. And then also, if you just use his yards after contact, 96, that's more than the next best, which was Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
Absolutely stupid numbers. So, man, if he could get, like you said, involved in a passing game, that Chiefs offense is going to be just a cheat code. But we go from one MVP candidate to the next, with Russell Wilson finishing with as many touchdowns as incompletions, which is 4, and that was with a couple drops, because they went into Atlanta and they beat them 38-25. The Chris Carson looked amazing. The Seattle offense looked phenomenal, but that defense had a lot to be. They were struggling because Matty Ice put 450 on you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that, those yardage, a lot of that passing yardage came from garbage time. I mean, that's what Matt Ryan's great at. Him and Matt Stafford are the garbage time kings.
Hey, shout out to my
what
fantasy
really
points.
impressed, yeah, of course. I mean, what really impressed me about the Seahawks team, though, was Jamal Adams made himself known early and often in this game. I mean, the amount of times you saw him crash off the edge on a 3rd and 1 and get the guy in the backfield, or make a massive stop on a run play. I mean, he was causing problems in the backfield. He was running around making plays. And it's looking like a great investment so far. And I did not think that I was going to be able to say that with what the Seahawks gave up for him.
Exactly. If he keeps up this performance, this very well may be the best offseason acquisition of this year.
Definitely.
Next game, we had a little less of an exciting game. We had the Jets take on the Bills in Buffalo, with the Bills coming away with this one 27-17. But man, Josh Allen, he could be good, but he could make some really, really confusing plays sometimes, whether it be trying to run with it and looking like a running back. To be fair, he's as big as one. Or it's a lack of finesse, where he had the guy wide open in the back of the end zone, and he sails the ball 5 yards over his head into the stands. He needs to clean it up, but if he could clean it up, he could be a really good quarterback. I still think he is a good one.
That's kind of Josh Allen's MO, is you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. I mean, he ran the ball well. He missed some throws. Stephon Diggs looked good. John Brown looked good. That offense, it looks like they can put up points enough to where the defense can keep them in games. The big thing that I take away from this, and I've been saying this for the last 2 years, seeing Sam Darnold in college, figuring out, I see what people see in him. He's one of those, prototypical 6'4" quarterbacks, pretty mobile, got a big arm, coming out of USC. But when are we just going to decide that Sam Darnold is not a good football player? I mean, this guy has made every single excuse, and you have a guy on the other side, Josh Allen, same draft class. Everyone thought Josh Allen was overhyped, but he's consistently overperformed Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has just not played well in his first couple of years, and we just keep thinking, this is a franchise quarterback. They just need offensive line help. They need receiver help. They need a better coach. But Sam Darnold, maybe we just shift the blame onto him because he's not a good quarterback.
It's hard, because I think it's a little bit of both. He's definitely not the best quarterback in his draft class, but at the same time, the situation he's in, and especially Adam Gase, who could hardly even coach a JV team in high school, let alone an NFL team, he's definitely not helping him along the way. I think
I mean,
we
give
could
it a
agree.
rest though. Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback. How many
No.
chances are we going to give this guy? How many?
2 more years or like a year. How much left is on his rookie contract until he becomes a backup on another team's time for super cheap?
Yeah, I mean, the Jets have nothing to play for anyways. I mean, we can almost write this team off in week one. I mean,
You mean almost? I already did.
Okay, yeah, I stand corrected. I mean, this game ended up closer than what it should have been, but this Jets team is just really, really bad.
It's hard because
they're gonna.
yeah, I want to give the benefit of the doubt. You weren't here for this, but I actually explained like a couple months ago that Sam Darnold is actually secretly one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Given we all remember that he that one game where he was seeing ghosts, right? So what that means that he has not only most people only have 5 senses, he has 6. So he has one extra sense than any other quarterback in the league, which does make him as elite as Joe Flacco.
Yeah, some people say he has supernatural talent, but I mean, I'm just on the other side of the train, and he needs to be cut tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck with that, Jets fans. They will never swallow that. They're a little too prideful over there. Next game, if we want to talk about disappointment, whether it be to the Lions, which is a perennial disappointing franchise, or you want to talk about disappointment when it comes to quarterbacks, hey, Alex, did you know that Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes were taken after Mitch Trubisky? No one ever seems to mention that. But
did you also know that the Bears traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky?
They did.
No way. I mean, all those factors coming together for a guy like Mitchell Trubisky out of North Carolina, who didn't even put that good of stats up in college.
But that doesn't matter, though, because Mitch Trubisky is back, baby. 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The Bears actually come back after trailing 23-3 in the fourth quarter. Oh, man. Lions fans, I really do feel bad for you, especially when you had Swift dropping a wide open, easy touchdown pass with 11 seconds to go.
Here's what I don't understand.
Pain. Just pain.
Here's what I don't understand about that play. I mean, DeAndre Swift runs an incredible route. I mean, you see him out of the backfield. Yeah. He runs his little wheel route. He gets wide open right on the front pylon. He knows he's in the end zone. And you see the replay, and he's looking upfield like he's trying to go run 15 more yards and break 2 tackles. Dude, catch the ball and fall down. What are you doing, man?
And that's
welcome to the NFL, rookie.
He had a good game up until that point, too. He was doing well, especially for a rookie.
He did.
But that is, it's hard because he's a rookie, but that is an inexcusable play to make. And you know that Stephen A. Meme where it's just pain? That's all I imagine every time I think of the Detroit Lions.
An underrated thing about this game is when is Adrian Peterson going to stop being a productive running back? I mean, he had 14, 15 carries for 93 yards, and he just got signed a week ago.
Right.
I mean, this guy's been doing it since 2007.
He's ridiculous. Who's going to be in the league longer, Adrian Peterson or Frank Gore? Who knows?
It's really just a battle for the ages right now. They're just trying to outlast each other. I mean, more relevant question: who's going to be in the league longer, Adrian Peterson or Sam Darnold? My money's on Adrian Peterson.
Oh yeah. That's our one not to take. Next one, we need to talk about the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people wrote them off this season. To be fair, it's only week 1, but week 1 means we get to overact about everything. They go into a very hyped up Vikings defense. They go into that very nice, still one of the best stadiums in the league, US Bank Stadium, and they put the hurting down on the Vikings, 43-34. The Vikings D gets embarrassed, but hey, revenge tour. Aaron Rodgers looks like the Aaron Rodgers of old.
I mean, here's the crazy thing is, you look at what the Packers did in the offseason. Obviously, super disappointing. You draft a guy you don't need for 3 years
to draft a guy you don't need.
I mean, exactly.
Take no receivers.
Theme of the podcast so far is trading up for dumb quarterbacks, but.
Right.
Here's the underrated part about the 2 guys that Aaron Rodgers has as 2 and 3 receivers is they're both 6'4", 6'5", and with Aaron Rodgers and the type of accuracy he has, his downfield throws have gotten year over year more and more accurate. And with big targets like that, it doesn't matter if they're, great route runners or polished receivers. If they have one good skill and they can do it the right way, Aaron Rodgers can make them a good player, and that's what he did this weekend. And also Devontae Adams. I mean,
this made a lot of fantasy owners happy.
Oh my gosh, this is the best receiver in the league if he stays healthy, which is his main issue. But Devontae Adams, his route running is pristine. That toe tap he had on the right side of the end zone was picture perfect. I mean, you draw up a play, and then all of a sudden it goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Rodgers rolls out to the right, and if you put it in one wrong place to Devontae Adams, he's still going to make the catch, and he's still going to toe drag, and it's just a crazy connection that him and Rodgers have.
There's really something bad. Man, imagine if they actually drafted real weapons besides Devontae Adams for Aaron Rodgers. This team, if they keep it up, this team could be a real big problem, not only in the AFC North, but hell, if they keep playing like this, they're going back to the NFC Championship game without a doubt. Next game.
Seems like they're on track for. Seems like they're on track to get blown out by the Niners again in the NFC Championship.
All right, we'll get to the Niners in a second, but let's talk about Cam Newton making his debut in Foxborough, brand new offense, and it's the Dolphins, but they put a hurt down on the Dolphins, 21-11, and man, Josh McDaniels drew up a perfect game plan for Cam Newton with his designed quarterback runs. That's how he had a couple rushing touchdowns, and man, given the way that they were looking, I would not be surprised if Cam Newton has more rushing touchdowns than passing this year.
Cam Newton's going to have more rushing touchdowns than every other Patriots running back combined this year, and I don't think that's a crazy statement. But no. What was kind of fitting about this game was that the Patriots had a ton of players opt out this year, but Bill Belichick, year over year, it doesn't matter what players he has. His system is so polished and so dialed in that it doesn't matter who you throw out there on the field. They're going to have an incredible defense.
I mean, he's only proving that he's the greatest coach of all time.
Agreed, and especially with the type of offense now that they can run with Cam, I mean, they're just going to grind out the clock. They're going to have 33 to 37 minutes TOP every single game. Defense is going to hold up. I mean, they're going to put some teams in bad spots. They're going to win ugly, but I think they're going to be a decent team this year.
I do. They could definitely be threatening for that 7-6 seed right now if they keep this up. Cam Newton, another guy on the revenge tour. He's looking good. And Bill Belichick has to be smiling to himself because former Patriots players, Gostkowski and Tom Brady, which we'll get to in a second, they had the rougher Sunday than New England did. And it was nice to see Josh McDaniels having a quarterback that probably doesn't yell at him on the sideline.
Yeah, Gronk had a tough week too. Tough week for the Owskis and Tom.
Right. Next one we had, this one was painful. The Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Washington football team 27-17 after being up 17-0. The battered Eagles give up 10 sacks. That Washington D-line is looking special, and Chase Young might as well just give him the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year award already because that's a grown-ass man.
10's a lot, right?
10, see, you give up double digits.
Carry the one.
It's too much if you're the Eagles.
It's too many. I mean, you worry about Carson Wentz.
The injury
problems.
You worry
about Carson Wentz being you read my mind. You worry about Carson Wentz and the injury problems, and then all of a sudden you just say, "Oh yeah, let's sack him 10 times and let's see how he holds up."
It's hard. They were missing 3 starting offensive linemen, which is no small deal, but still, you have to be able to design. Maybe it's less than O-line, but it's more about their game plan and their play design. Yeah. You have to be able to get the ball out quicker. You have to keep if you need a dink and dunk, you dink and dunk. You get more on the run game and the screen game. The screen game especially to slow down that pass rush to keep them on their toes. They didn't do that.
Granted, the Eagles, like every single week you talk about them, they were missing their guys. They were missing Miles Sanders. They were missing their offensive lineman.
Boston
like
went out too.
Boston Scott, yep. Yeah. And then one other big thing, and I think this one underrated, but their swing tackle from last year, Vaitai, is now on the Lions. And he was the guy that kind of plugged the holes whenever Lane Johnson was out, because Lane Johnson was out a lot.
Which sucks because Lane Johnson's fun to watch. Yeah.
He's one of the best offensive linemen in the game.
Yes.
And I know since an offensive lineman like yourself would appreciate what kind of a nasty player he is, but
he's just an animal. That's why Quinn Nelson is one of my favorites.
Yeah, this Eagles team is just not deep enough to be able to withstand these injuries, and until they get healthy, I think they're just going to be, one of these 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 teams that just doesn't have the juice to beat teams on a regular basis.
You're really generous with that 9-7 record right there. I'll tell you that much. Now,
yeah, they play in a bad division.
Yeah, it may be the worst. Now, it's a new era, Alex, because we had not the Oakland Raiders, we had the Las Vegas Raiders playing the Carolina Panthers in a heavily contested, actually a better game than I thought it was going to be. Fun back and forth game with the Raiders pulling this one off 34-30, and Josh Jacobs. He not only took the offense and put it on his back, he took the Raiders team, put that on his back. He took the organization, put that on his back. He took the Death Star itself over in Las Vegas, and he put that whole stadium on his back because 3 touchdowns, just taking over the game, killed it in the red zone. You couldn't stop him, and he is pissed that he didn't get that NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year last season.
Oh, yeah, he is. I mean, this is one of those games where every single time they cut to it, I still cannot get used to the Las Vegas in front of the Raiders. I mean, it doesn't look right, but I'm sure in a year it'll get a little better. But one of the big takeaways I had from this game was that with Joe Brady coming into the offense, with Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, coming in as the quarterback, you thought there might be a couple different wrinkles that they throw in. You thought they have some sort of innovation, but I think the book is out on Teddy Two Gloves. He cannot throw the ball down the field. I mean, their 2 best receivers, DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, are going to not catch the ball 10 yards down the field at all this year. I mean, he's just screen pass left, screen pass right, tunnel screen, throw a hitch, throw a slant, maybe throw deep to Robbie Anderson once, and hopefully he breaks the tackle and runs 75 yards. But that offense is just so predictable that if you just crowd the line and hope that those guys, don't break tackles and run after the catch, this team is going to be so predictable, and they're going to be easy to stop, I think.
And that's when you need to, you go to the backup, MVP PJ Walker, the best quarterback that the XFL has ever seen, from my very own Houston Roughnecks, and you put that boy in, and he will throw for 400 yards guaranteed.
Talk about a guy that's actually fun to watch. PJ is actually going to put something on the field that you'd want to tune into. I mean, Teddy's just dink, dunk, dink, dunk, dink, dunk.
It's hard because I want to like Teddy. I really do like phenomenal story. 5-0 with the Saints last year when Drew Brees was out. But he just has to be able to push the ball down the field. He needs a little more.
And the guy's game doesn't evolve ever. He's been the same quarterback for the last 5 years.
Yeah, is what it is. We'll see.
It's frustrating.
Yes, that's the best way to put it. And speaking of frustrating, one hell of a segue. You got to feel for the Colts fans because you can take Phillip Rivers out of L.A., but you can't take the interception out of Phillip Rivers. It doesn't matter. I don't know where I was going with that one. Phillip Rivers.
I was honestly tracking you on that.
Where
I was tracking.
Okay. Just make.
I know what you're trying to say.
Here we go. How about this? New team, same Phillip Rivers. No matter what, he's going to be forcing the ball. And he's going to be throwing interceptions. But if you're a Colts fan, you have to feel for this. Colts with 445 yards of offense, more offensive yards than the Jags, more first downs than the Jags. They didn't punt once, and they lose 27-20. Minshew Mania is still alive.
I mean, that is one of the craziest stats of Week 1, I think. 445 yards of offense, no punts. And you put up 20 points, 2-0. That's it. I mean, you saw some things today out of the Colts that you'd expect out of a Chargers team, but you thought that maybe when Phillip Rivers goes from the powder blue to the navy blue or the royal blue or whatever, whatever blue you want to call the Colts, you thought that some things might change, but when you tune in the fourth quarter, under 7 minutes to go, Phillip Rivers is driving, hoping for a touchdown, and that's just how it is every single time.
See, there's this dude on Twitter trying to say he's a changed quarterback.
Don't change.
There's a Colts fan on Twitter trying to say he's a changed quarterback. I said, no, all you're still going to get a man that throws interceptions and is going to yell "dadgummit" after every play. Okay, Same guy.
Man's not different.
But hey, Gardner Minshew does not want to tank.
Do you know how many incompletions Gardner Minshew had this week?
Was it like 6? No, not even
the answer is 1.
Yeah,
he was 19 for 20 today. The only incompletion he threw was a ball to Laviska Shenault that I think should have been caught.
With 3 tuthers.
It's crazy to think. I mean, he only threw the ball 20 times, granted, but 1 incompletion out of a second-year quarterback with a Fu Manchu.
That's some old-school Alex Smith stuff right there. Back when he was with the Niners. That's exactly what he did. Yeah.
Impressive.
I'm really impressed by him, to be honest. I'm surprised that they're still here and that they just didn't. the team itself, they didn't roll over and lose. They didn't accept the tank, which is bad for the organization and the GMs and the owner. But if you're a player on that team, hey, that's good. It's good.
I mean, here's one takeaway I have from this game is the NFC South or the AFC South might be the worst division in football, and I don't think it's close anymore. I mean, with the way the Titans showed up on Monday night, I mean, granted they played a hard-nosed Broncos team, but the AFC South is just not a good division filled with 4 teams that are just average, and then you got the Jags and the Texans. Well, I don't think the Texans are very good. But
if that whole division went 8-8, I would not be surprised.
I mean, to say that every team is going to split their conference schedule. I mean, that's already a given.
It's rough. And now, if we want to talk about bad performance, possibly the worst performance of the week and of the season so far, we had we had the Ravens
number 2
at home against the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens put up 38 points on the scene, 38-6. Is it that the Ravens are still this good, the Browns are still this bad, or both? And then even worse, you had a man who's really good off the field in his commercials. Love Baker Mayfield in his commercials. But when it comes to on-field play, awful. First drive of the season ended in an interception. A man had 22, 23 interceptions last year. Not a good start.
You'd think he'd learn something by now, but it's one of those things where you just look down at that score and you just wonder, when are the Browns going to realize that this is just not a good football team? I mean, you put up 6 points in an NFL football game against the Ravens defense that I don't think is as good as last year, but they made the Browns offense look like a JV team.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield couldn't throw, he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Odell had 2 catches for 22 yards, which I think is hilarious that he had 22 yards and,
2 catches.
all the stuff about him. But, I mean, I don't know if he had 2 catches or not, but he had 22 yards. Yeah. But Lamar Jackson picked up where he left off. Mm-hmm. He's not a great playoff performer so far, but I think he's going to be one of the best regular season quarterbacks this year. They're going to be 14, 13, 12 wins. They're going to have a 1 or 2 seed. They're going to be up there, and the Browns are just going to be perennially disappointing.
Also, you got to be disappointed for Nick Chubb, too. He did jack that game. If we want to talk about fantasy, we'll go deeper into fantasy in episode 51 later this week. So stay tuned for that. But it's just bad all around. And then if we want to talk about a stinker of a game, too, let's talk about the first quarter of the Chargers-Bengals game. Joe Burrow in his debut. Tyrod Taylor making his debut for the Chargers. Chargers with some very bright yellow pants. I do like their revamp of their uniforms, but I did not like the white on yellow. It just didn't look good on the TV.
That makes one of us.
In my opinion, I think it would, if they did yellow socks with the power blue pants with the whites, now you're talking. But Bengals or the Chargers escape with the win, 16-13. And Joe Burrow goes down with the L in his first game, and that's not due to him. But that offensive line, we saw the videos in practice of Joe Burrow just running a marathon away from that D line, and that if practice means anything, that's exactly what happened in this game too.
Exactly. I mean, this was an absolute snooze fest, and even with only 3 games, which
was like
don't get me started.
8 punts.
Don't get me started on why there's 9 morning games and 3 afternoon games on an NFL slate. That just baffles my mind. But out of 3 games, I didn't have to watch the Chargers Bengals once. That's how boring this game was.
They hardly even showed down red zone.
No, I mean, the only interesting play we had was Joe Burrow running a QB draw for a 20-yard touchdown on his first NFL touchdown, which was awesome,
that was
by the
impressive.
way. But, I mean, God, this team, both these teams are just so underwhelming. There's nothing else to say. I don't want to talk about this game anymore. It's boring. It's ridiculous.
All right, moving on to
losing listeners.
A better game here. But still, I think it was a little disappointing given what it was supposed to be hyped up to be. It was the Bucs at the New Orleans Saints. The Saints coming away with from this game 34-23. Your winners. This was supposed to be a matchup of 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, And to be fair, I don't think they showed up. Breeze looked better than Brady. And Brady, if we're talking Brady standards, an interception and a pick six, that's not a good look for him, especially in his debut.
No, I mean, I think there's questions that needs to be raised about this Bucs offense. I mean, the way that the team is set up, it's not set up for a quarterback like Tom Brady, who likes to have a quick 3-step drop, get the ball out quick. But
No, except for Jameis
not.
that closes his eyes and chucks the ball to any, I guess, Bucks player that you could see.
You can rag on Jameis for the way he runs his offense. He's throwing the ball down the field. He's turning the ball over like it's a hot potato. But at least he was able to run around, make something happen. And these receivers that the Bucs have are really, really good at improvising. They get downfield, and Jameis could push the ball downfield. Tom Brady is not that kind of quarterback.
I think what really hurt them was their lack of chemistry. It was obvious on the field. They just weren't clicking at points, and that really costed them,
And I think this O-line made Brady look like he was 50 years old. I mean, he's not a guy that can move around the pocket like he used to. I mean, he was so good at maneuvering the pocket when he was younger, avoiding rushes, moving to the left, moving to the right. That pocket mobility was really one of Brady's strong suits. But he doesn't have that juice anymore, and this O-line is not going to be able to hold up for these receivers to get open downfield. And I have serious questions about the way this offense is going to operate moving forward.
And to be fair to Jameis Winston, Tom Brady is now on pace for more interceptions than he had. So good for him. He's the Bucs throw a pick six, but now we see Jameis Winston actually win a game because he's not on the other side. So congrats, Jameis. Really, really happy for you, man. And now, how about maybe the biggest upset of the week? This was the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers, taking this one 24-20. You had all the young talent of the Cardinals just running wild all over the Niners. And I don't want, don't overact, but the Niners did not look good in their first game of the season.
All right, I mean, let's not overreact to this. I mean, this is one of those situations where the Niners were without their 3 top offensive weapons in the second half. Ayuk and Debo are out. They don't have a receiver. Their 2 best receivers this week were Kendrick Bourne and Trent Taylor.
Who?
You ask any random NFL fan, they're not going to know who those guys are. Kittle had a knee sprain on a nasty hit by Budda Baker, which was completely legal, but still a nasty hit that.
Hey, Budda Baker making his money just by taking out the best tight end in the game.
Agreed. And this is one of those things where I just don't think you need to overreact to this Niners team. They're going to be okay. They're going to put a hurting on these New York teams the next couple weeks. The Jets are in for a rude awakening next week. This Niners team's going to hang a 40-piece on them, and it's not going to be close. But what I think was the most alarming thing about this game was that Kyler Murray, when he improvises, he puts fear into that defense. Every single time that man broke the pocket, I thought he was going to run for a touchdown. I mean, it's crazy. And the Niners, the way they played this game was alarming to me because instead of rushing their guys, aggressively to the quarterback, they kind of just like stayed in their rush lanes, didn't get so aggressive. But the problem with that is if you stay in your rush lanes and you try to spy Kyler Murray, you don't have enough athleticism on that front 7 to be able to tackle him in space. So you're almost just wasting a pass rush and preparing for him to just maneuver around the pocket and maneuver around these defensive players without having a counter to it. They need to fix something.
The only way to contain him is what it looks like. You can't have your DNs rush upfield. You have to rely on your interior defensive lineman to pass rush because you have to keep your ends on contained. Then, hell, you might even have to keep at least one linebacker, maybe even 2, spying him in the middle of the field. It's ridiculous. He was putting people on skates, and his speed was scary in the middle of the field.
It was apparent in that game, and he made the 49ers tacklers look like they were JV players.
Straight ridiculous. Up. And now, the first Sunday night football game of the week. This one taking place in the $5 billion SoFi Stadium, which did just it's a piece of art. It really is.
It looked like its own city.
It's honestly that stadium is absolutely stunning from the Oculus scoreboard, just from what it looks like on the inside. The roof looks amazing. The only thing that made it look bad was that really, really stupid new Rams logo right there in the middle of the field.
I mean, what are they thinking?
It. We had the show on this like a few months ago now when they released that,
Yeah.
and we pretty much just spent 20 minutes crapping on them because it looks bad. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is that you were really high on the Cowboys. I don't know how you're feeling right now, but we'll talk about it. But you're high on this Cowboys team, and can you say that they didn't live up to the hype this week? Can you say that they disappointed this week?
I think that there's a couple ways to react to this game. You can talk about, the Cowboys not living up to the hype, not performing, but at the end of the day, they did not play well this week. They were winning at halftime when they shouldn't have been. Mm-hmm. They were a bad call away from being in position to have the game time field goal or even go in for that game winning score. I think that offensive PI call was absolutely atrocious. There were 2 PI calls this week.
Jalen Ramsey, actor of the year.
Just so bad. I mean,
give them the Oscar. Give them the Oscar.
I mean, yeah, and that's fitting because he got paid enough to be a freaking Hollywood actor right now. But it's just one of those things where I think that the Rams had a great game plan. They bled the clock. They dominated the time of possession. They got back to their roots. They ran the ball 40 times for 153 yards. Cam Akers looks good. Malcolm Brown looks really good. I think this offensive line, when they fire off the ball with some bad intention, it sets up the play action, which is the only thing that Jared Goff is good at. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff is not a good quarterback unless he's in the play action game, unless he's getting crossers down the middle of the field, unless he's got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee.
Robert Woods, speaking of him, he
played really, really well
this game.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be in the run game or in the short pass game when he was just getting the short catch, it was the yards after the catch that really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, he played well. This Rams team is the best when they're running the football and getting play action off of that, and that's their formula. And if they do that week after week, they're going to be a good team, and they might be the best team in the NFC West.
Well, I really liked how this Rams team, at least in the first half, really reminded me of the season they went to the Super Bowl, whether it be Sean McVay's offense just clicking and then moving the ball down the field. Yeah, Jared Goff doing – I mean, he's not going to light the field on fire, but he was doing plenty, and he was making smart decisions. There's actually a stat where he had the most or he is like the least amount of negative rated passes, something from, the crazy stats from Pro Football Focus. It was something like the least amount of the negative rated passes in the league this year. Or this week. So Jared Goff, the smartest passer of week 1. And that might be, that's to the system, but that offense was working for him. And if we see this offense like this is why Jared Goff can succeed.
Yeah, and I think would be remiss to say that Aaron Donald is one of the most incredible
Did you see him throw Zeke?
I've ever seen. It's ridiculous how quickly and how effectively he gets into the backfield. I mean, you can put 2, 3, 4, 5 guys on him, and he will get into the backfield without hesitation.
Well,
I mean, this guy's
the Rams are running a 3-man front and just having him go against the interior 3 offensive linemen, and he was winning.
He's his own blitz. I mean, you think that they're sending an engage 8 on him from the old Madden plays, and you got only 3 guys rushing. I mean, he makes that defense look so good. He deserves to get as much money. He deserves to get Patrick Mahomes money.
Straight up.
He's that effective on the defensive line, and if they didn't have him, that defense would be atrocious.
Yes, and I mean, I want to give Zeke some credit because he's smaller. He's obviously not strong, and he's running back, so he's not going to be able to block well. But Aaron Donald picking up Zeke and throwing him like a rag doll.
He's a man's man.
No one man should have that much strength, power, and speed.
It's ridiculous.
The speed and the quickness is not there. It really isn't. That was impressive. Now we get to move on to Monday night with the Steelers at the Giants, with the Steelers winning this one with a final score 26-16. And it was hard because I was really worried about Big Ben, at least in the first half, because he was looking slow. Like, slow. He was looking bad, if I do say so. But as time went on, as he got a little more comfortable in that pocket, as he got into the second half, he looked like the Big Ben of old, and that Steelers offense looked like the Steelers offense that you typically expect. James Conner was disappointing. Of course, he was out for most of the game with the sprained ankle. but then also or like it was some ankle injury, right?
Yeah.
And then you had guys step up on that Steelers though. You had Juju having a great game, and that offensive
Benny
line.
Snell looked incredible.
Benny Snell stepped in. That's why I tried to put a waiver claim on him in 3 of my leagues. Benny Snell stepped in, and he was making some really good plays in the run game and out of the backfield catching balls. The offense looked great, but that defense, that front seven, was making a mess of the Giants.
I mean, so I'll start with the offensive part of it, and we don't need to spend much time on the Giants because this is just cry me a river, Giants fans. You guys have a bad team.
You have Jason Garrett.
Let's just call a spade a spade. But Ben in the first quarter, in the first couple of drives, looked extremely timid. He was talking about how he was nervous before this game, which, I mean, I think every NFL player gets nervous. I mean, at least when I played,
and this was
I
a big game
butterflies.
for Ben, too.
I got butterflies every time I stepped on the field.
There's a lot riding on this game for Big Ben.
Quarterback.
Coming back from his surgery, and he's still trying to be the face of the franchise.
But the thing about this team that Ben hasn't had before since the Troy Polamalu days is that this defense is nasty. That defensive line, I'm going to say it now, is the best defensive line in the NFL, and it is not close.
TJ Watt, man.
TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, they have all pros at every single position. And that play oh my gosh.
I think I heard Bud Dupree's name like every other play, and TJ Watt was always in the backfield.
That play that TJ Watt made on that drop coverage was one of the most incredible plays I've seen a D lineman make. I mean, just picture this. You have a tight end split out, running a quick stick route. This is a 3-step drop from the quarterback. 1, 2, 3, get the ball out to the right. TJ Watt realizes that it's a 3-step drop, takes 1 step at the quarterback, drops 1, 2 steps, and outstretches his body like Calvin Johnson, picks up the quarterback. Daniel Jones had 0 chance to complete that ball because TJ Watt is that much of a monster that he can sack the quarterback, cause fumbles, bat down passes, pick off passes.
He does everything. What can he do?
The Steelers' defensive line had 2 interceptions today. Him and Cam Hayward both had a pair. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me, Ross?
It's not supposed to happen, right?
No, it's not. It's really not.
I thought interceptions were like up to the cornerbacks and maybe sometimes linebackers, maybe sometimes safeties. But a D line getting 2 interceptions.
And an interior D line at that too.
2 interceptions. And I swear, that Watt family, I think their blood could save the human race and make superhumans out of them. Can we clone them?
I agree.
Can we just clone them?
I agree. I mean,
can we make an entire football league just with Watt DNA?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could replace the AAF pretty easily.
Oh, that was something, wasn't it? Now the nightcap of the first week.
I'm going to take a step back on this one.
All right.
Just bask in it. Bask in it.
It was hard because as a Broncos fan, there was a lot of hope in this. There was a lot of really good things you could see from this team. That defense is still looking good even without Von Miller. There's a lot of hope for them. But at the same time, my biggest thing is that the Denver Broncos are becoming a perennial choker that cannot manage the clock. If we go back to 2019, 3 games where they're up by 1 with less than 2 minutes to go. The first one, they're up 14-13 on the Bears with 30 seconds left. They lose that game. Later, up 24-23 on the Jags with 1:27 left. They lose that game. They're up 13-12 on the Colts with 1:48 left. You guessed it. They lose that game. Now,
I'm sensing a trend.
Arya, do you get the pattern yet, Alex? Because now we're in 2020. It's supposed to be a new year, new me, new Broncos. Up 14-13 on the Titans with 1:50 left. And you guys all know the rest. But also, I just want to have a little beef here. So, they should have had the interception around the third quarter. But Alexander Johnson gets flagged for the penalty was it was like roughing a player that wasn't close to that was out of the play.
Yeah, it was like unnecessary roughness on a player not involved in the play. I think it was the first time I'd ever heard those words said.
Is that a real penalty? That
They didn't even show the replay on ESPN.
They didn't even show the replay. If they don't even show the replay, that's how you know that it's not real. There's a conspiracy in the NFL against the Denver Broncos. We saw this with the Bears game. There's a bunch of BS happening in that last drive. I might just sound like a homer, but the NFL is out against the Denver Broncos because they are scared of Drew Lock.
I mean, I'm not going to try to pronounce that corner's name, but it was a rookie corner's first interception in the league.
It was a great play, too. It was a really good
play.
He jumped the route perfectly.
Can you pronounce his name for me so I don't have to butcher it on
I can't pronounce his name for you.
Okay. Well, he did have a great game. I mean, when AJ Boye went out, I thought they were in serious trouble, but he held his own in that game, and I thought that
he showed real promise, and it showed that he was a good pick. He's going to get another interception. And one play that stuck out from this game is that everyone thought that the Broncos linebacking core was going to be one of their weak spots with Von Miller going out and their departures. But Josie Jewell absolutely laid out Derrick Henry 2 yards in the backfield
in the first half. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, Derrick Henry got shook, and I think Josie Jewell weighs less than Derrick Henry.
He does. He's smaller.
He got absolutely destroyed by Josie Jewell.
Perfect. He was the best tackler, one of the best tacklers Iowa has ever had. And it showed because he just read that play. He sat in the hole, he did his little shuffle, and he hit that gap hard, and he just read it. And the Broncos, to be fair, they minimized Derrick Henry for almost the entire game. He mostly had like 2-3 yard gains. They did really good there. There's a lot of hope from them. But Drew Lock's touchdown pass in that game, where he's rolling out to the right, throws across his body into the middle of the field on a salvage play. No fan right there in the end zone. That was a really good pass. Drew Lock could be a gunslinger.
That was one of the worst decisions I've ever made that I've ever seen in week one. But to have that kind of gall to roll out to the right, I mean, you saw his eyes. He said, Noah, go to your right. I will throw you the football. And he zings it through two defenders across his body right to the goal line. I mean, that throw took some balls, and at least you can give Drew Lock that he's not afraid to make those kind of throws. It's not something that is going to be sustainable over the long term.
Probably
but
not.
At least you have a quarterback that's not like Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco 10 times out of 10 is going to throw that ball out of the back of the end zone because he's like, oh, let's just live to play it.
I wouldn't say 10 times out of 10. I would say 5 times out of 10 with the other 5 going to the hands of the defense.
That's very true. I mean, is Joe Flacco elite? I think we all know the answer to that.
Yes.
But that's why John Lynch or
John Elway.
The Broncos. John Elway paid him so much money because he was 6'7" and a Super Bowl winner.
This could be the Broncos' solution to the quarterback carousel that's been going ever since they lost Peyton Manning. Fingers crossed. We will see. They play the Steelers on Sunday, so that's a big game right there.
Get ready for 0-2, but that's fine.
It's okay, Alex, because I'm always ready for disappointment. I'm a Broncos fan. All right.